Hello and welcome back. My name is Colleen, and today I have several things I'm grateful for. Actually, I feel very grateful for a lot of things. Today I'm really grateful that I have air conditioning, and I'm really grateful that I have these beautiful big cabbage leaves in my garden that I could take off the bottom part of my cabbage, because I'm going to use these to make cabbage rolls for dinner tonight, and that will require the oven. That's why I'm grateful to have air conditioning. So I'm going to gather up everything that I need. This is kind of a three-part system, and I will be right back. Well, as I said earlier, this is a few steps in the process. The first one is to take these beautiful lower leaves. They're so tender up at the leaf part, but down here at the stalk, the stem where it joins onto the plant, I've just taken a knife and I've taken some of the thick part off, so it makes it a little more pliable. But there's still cracking when I try to roll them, so I'm just going to give them a little blanch in some hot water that I have on the stove, and while they're in there we will mix the sauce together. Now, I didn't even submerge the whole part of the leaf in there, just the stalky ends, and see if we can't, what happens when we do that. We're not sure. So I'm making the sauce today with a can of my home canned tomatoes, one of the last ones from last year's harvest, and I don't think I added any sugar to them, so I'm just going to keep that in mind as I'm going along, because we do like our cabbage rolls a little to the sweeter side. And this is a bottle of the tomato sauce that I just made a week or so ago. It has a basil leaf in it, but I don't think that's going to make a difference to this. And that should just about do the sauce, or the tomatoes for the sauce anyway. And then to that I'm going to add about, I'm going to guesstimate this. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. And I think I better stir that before I make any more decisions, because I would like to taste it before I add any salt or pepper to it. Yeah, it doesn't need any salt or pepper in it. So I'm just going to add to it right now a few more things. I'm thinking that that's pretty good. I may add another can of tomato sauce to it later, but for right now I feel like that's good. So I'm just going to set this aside. I'm going to check on my leaves, and then I'll come back and we will go on to the filling. Yeah, the leaves are still good for a minute, so let's go on to the filling. So to the filling, I am going to start off with let's see what this is. It's just about a pound of, this is a ground beef pork blend, but usually I use just beef. Today that's what I had, so that's what I'm using. I'm going to also add a little bit of salt to that, maybe a half a teaspoon to the meat. You want to be seasoning it at every opportunity. I'm going to add an egg. I can hear my water boiling over there with my leaves, and you can probably hear it too. I have one of these rasps, and I'm going to use it to rasp 2 cloves of garlic. I have one really large one and then one that's sort of normal size, I guess. I'm going to call it regular size. And it comes out quite fine this way. It's not chunky. So it's the way I like to use it. Although I love garlicking everything almost. I'm now going to pull my cutting board over here because it's time to get to work on some of the other ingredients. I have 4 slices of bacon here that I cooked earlier today, and I didn't cook them really crispy, and I'm just going to chop them now, and these are going to go into the filling. I love bacon in my cabbage rolls. Well, most people would say you could put bacon on your hand and eat it, but we do enjoy bacon. You just want to make sure that you're chopping it up enough that you're not going to have trouble when it comes time to form it into the roll. And that can take a little bit of work, which is one of the reasons I don't make it super crispy. You don't need any pokey parts getting in our way. And I'm going to add that to the meat bowl. And I think my leaves are ready, so I'm going to take them off and then I'll be right back. So I was right. The leaves were ready to come out. I've just laid them here on a clean towel to try and cool them a little bit so that they'll be ready to handle. And we're going to go back to the meat mixture for the filling. And we need about, I'm going to say, half of a medium onion. Let's see. I think we need around a cup of onion in this. This is one of those dishes that normally you get in the fall, but I just went out to the garden this morning and noticed that there was an abundance of these beautiful lower leaves that you know by the end of the season they're gonna be too tough to use for anything. But right now they're just beautiful for something like this. So we're having a fall dish in the summer. Breaking the rules. That's one of the great things about cooking. There aren't an awful lot of rules, and especially in your own home. It's your house, your rules. So if you've done if you've done something the same way and it's turned out to have great results for you, then you should continue to do that. So I think that is going to be enough onion in there. Now I'm going to add, this is pre-cooked rice. I'm going to add about 1 cup of rice. I think that's probably enough. Now you could use pre-cooked rice or leftover rice, or you could, my mother used to cook it with raw rice right in there, but then you had to add additional moisture, or more tomato juice to it. Ooh, an onion. Then you would have to add more tomato juice to it, and maybe an additional part water, just so that you could have enough moisture for the rice to absorb. And then you have to increase your cooking time by about an hour or 2. So this will cook for about 1 hour in the oven. So I've got almost everything in there, I think, that needs to go in there. Maybe add a little pepper to it. Now this will give me an opportunity to find out whether my mixture is moist enough. I'll mix up my egg and check that out. I want to make sure that that garlic got well mixed in there too, and that it isn't just in one big lump. That would be a huge surprise for one of us to get in our cabbage roll. Also want to make sure that the rice is evenly distributed. Now I'm finding this might be a little dry, so I'm just going to add a little bit of the sauce right into it. Make it a little saucy. better. Okay, now I'll clean some of this up and we'll be ready to start assembling this. Now, good thing I got busy and went back and started cleaning up, because then I realized I had things out here on the counter I hadn't used yet. So I have a can of tomato soup here, and I'm going to add a half of the can of tomato soup to the sauce. I don't know how I missed that before. It was sitting right there in plain sight. And this is just plain Campbell's tomato soup. And let's set that aside. I wonder what's for dinner at your house tonight. I'd love it if you shared it with me. And I'm also going to add to this sauce mix some sauerkraut. I'll just grab a fork. Now, I don't want a terrible amount of it in there, but it definitely adds to the flavor of this dish to add the sauerkraut. So I'm probably going to put about half a cup in total. There we go. The sauerkraut is so good for us too. It is really good for our gut health. So it never hurts to get it in anywhere that we can. And that looks wonderful. So to start assembling this, I am going to put just enough of the sauce in the bottom to cover the bottom of the pan. It doesn't need to be lots, it's just something for the cabbage to sit on. And then I'm going to take a big leaf. I think this bruiser right here, and I'm going to add it to the bottom of the pan just like that. And that'll cook in there at the same time as the rest, so that should be a good way to line it and keep them from scorching or sticking to the bottom. I'm going to add a little bit more sauce, and maybe about half the sauce. It's a good way to use up some of that extra. Now I'm going to bring the cabbage leaves over here one at a time, and I'm just going to lay them out on my clean counter, and I'm going to take about a half a cup of, maybe a little more than, I'm going to make these pretty big, of cabbage roll stuffing onto the leaf, and I start from the big thick end, and I'm just going to fold in the sides and then bring it up, and I'm going to roll them, and there's a completed roll. They're such a beautiful deep green color right now, and I think I can get about maybe 6 in the pan, or maybe 7. I think I picked 8 leaves out there, so we'll see what we can do. But I won't keep you around to make you watch me roll every one. And there's the second one. So I'll bring you right back in a minute when I have them all rolled up. Now I'm down to the last couple, and I'm going to have to squish them into the pan because these are quite a bit bigger than I had anticipated. I knew there'd be leftovers. My husband will be pleased that that's what he's going to be taking for his lunch tomorrow as well, because he loves cabbage rolls too. Whoops, this little fella's trying to give me grief here. I'm just going to have to wiggle them around a little bit to get this last one in there. And I will let you know that the leaves were only in the hot water. Well, I think I did it kind of in real time. So they were in hot water probably less than 5 minutes in the boiling water. It was boiling. So, and some of these really small leaves, you know, the size of a dinner plate, they definitely got cooked right through. I'm just gonna squeeze this guy in there. I'm going to wash my hands and show you what it looks like before I add the sauce. Now, this is what they look like in the bowl before I add the sauce. This time of the year, those leaves are such a vibrant color. Now I'm just going to completely cover these guys with sauce. And I'm going to guess that this is going to take, because the rolls are bigger and there's more sauce, I'm going to guess that this is going to take a bit longer in the oven. So I'm going to put it into the oven for an hour and a half, and I will be back to show you the end result when they come out of the oven. I've just taken the cabbage rolls out of the oven. In fact, they're still kind of bubbly around the edges. And I just wanted to take one out and show it to you so that you knew what they looked like when they came out. And I've picked this one right over here. Just gonna scoop it on a plate. I should have had a different spoon to scoop up some of the juice. Let's see what I can find. So I'm just going to scoop up some of the sauce, awkwardly, apparently. I'm just going to scoop up some of the sauce and put it on my plate. And I hope that is appealing to you. It certainly is to me. It smells so fantastic in my house. I will cut this so that you can see a cross section of it, and then I'm gonna try it. So now I should tell you too that if you happen to notice the baking dish from the oven, that I had it so full it bubbled over. I had to put a pan underneath it. That's how much the food that was in the dish expanded. And I'm glad I put a dish underneath it because it did run out. I have a lid on it, covered, which I think is the best way to do it. It helps to keep the internal temperature up. And I wanted to be sure that I had cooked it all the way through, because when you add bacon to your cabbage rolls, you end up with these little pink flecks in there, and it's hard to tell whether that meat is cooked or not. So I used a meat thermometer, to make sure that it was cooked all the way through in the center of the pan. And now I think I'm going to give this a try. Yes. This is what's for dinner tonight at my house. I hope that you will give this a try and get it onto the table at your house really soon. I'm glad that you've joined me here today. Thank you so much for doing that. If you have hung in here to the end, I really hope that you will give this video a like, that you will subscribe it, and consider sharing it on your social media. That would be fantastic. Until next time, folks, I hope that you are all staying cool wherever you are, and that you will join me again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.